Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to tell you what to do to lower your blood sugar when it's high and what you need to do to prevent it from rising again. Stay until the end, you won't want to miss it. First of all, if you're new here, welcome. Take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell because I have new videos every day with tips on fitness, health, nutrition, and also recipes, including recipes for people with diabetes and prediabetes. You won't want to miss them. Let's start talking a bit about how to lower blood sugar. It's very important that the levels of sugar in our blood, our glucose, remain stable and within an ideal range because elevated blood sugar is toxic to our bodies. Sugar is very viscous. It actually makes your blood thicker. Over time, this increased viscosity can affect how easily your blood flows through your vessels. So in the medium and long term, if your blood sugar remains consistently elevated for years, it can begin to contribute to some of the complications commonly associated with diabetes. So it's really important for us to keep those levels within the ideal range. What are these problems we're talking about? Studies have already shown all of these problems. In the medium and long term, if you keep your blood sugar elevated many times a day, many days a week, routinely, this can cause vision problems, circulation problems, and issues with your kidneys. So we want to keep our bodies always functioning well. The big problem is that many people already have some form of prediabetes or are type 2 diabetics and don't know it yet, which is why it's so important to pay attention to the symptoms and signs that our bodies show us. Before I start telling you about this, I want to remind you that I have an entire playlist here on the channel talking all about diabetes, and there's a really great video about the symptoms of diabetes where I explain the difference between type 1 and type 2. I'll leave that down below in the description to help you out. Let's talk about how we can prevent blood sugar from getting too high. It's very important for me to remind you that usually the time when your blood glucose, the sugar in your blood, will be at its highest during the day is what we call the postprandial period. That is after you eat, but not immediately after. Normally, it's about 2 hours after your meal. That's because when we eat, the food in our mouth has to go down the esophagus, pass through the stomach, reach the intestine, and only then enter the bloodstream, causing the glucose to rise. So usually we say that during those 2 hours after eating is when your blood glucose or blood sugar will be at its highest. And we know that what we eat is directly related to how much our blood glucose or blood sugar will rise, as well as how quickly it will be absorbed. Because this process can be slower, helping to avoid those high spikes that are dangerous for your health, or it can happen in a slower, more gradual, and more balanced way to help you keep your glucose and blood sugar levels more stable. So let's talk about what you can do to prevent your blood sugar from rising in a very practical way for your daily life. Here are some tips you can start applying today to begin seeing results. And then I'll tell you what you can do if your blood sugar is already high to help lower it. My first tip for you is to be very careful with both the amount and the quality of carbohydrates you consume. We already know that carbohydrates are the food group that actually has the greatest impact on raising your blood sugar. So, depending on the type of carbohydrate you eat, but also on the amount you consume, this will have a greater or lesser impact on your blood sugar after your meal. I have several very interesting videos here on the channel talking about glycemic index, which is precisely the rate at which carbohydrates are absorbed. I'll leave those down here for you. And there are also some great tips on carbohydrates you can eat. These videos will also be linked below. If you don't know where the description is, there's the video title here and an arrow. Just click there and a tab will open where I'll leave all these lists of videos and other interesting videos for you. Let me remind you that the carbohydrates with a lower glycemic index are the ones we should preferably consume, especially if we are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or want to keep our blood sugar levels stable. Which ones are these? They are the carbohydrates that have a lot of fiber, or a lot of protein, or healthy fats, or a combination of these. So it's a good idea for us to eat, for example, sweet potatoes, quinoa, beans in general, lentils, chickpeas, and oats. And these are all nutrient-rich options. But just because these carbohydrates are healthy, it doesn't mean we can eat them in large amounts. Many people tell me that oats have sugar. Actually, oats don't have sugar. They contain carbohydrates, fiber, and also a bit of protein, so their glycemic index is lower. The big problem is that people think oats are healthy and end up eating 5 tablespoons and making a porridge. So the glucose will rise a lot, but if you use just 1 tablespoon, if you add coconut milk, if you put in a bit of chia, you can modulate the absorption of this carbohydrate so that it is absorbed more slowly. You can also choose to follow a diet that is restricted in carbohydrates, a low-carb diet, or a ketogenic diet, and for many people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic, it yields excellent results. I have a playlist where I talk all about the low-carb diet, and I have many low-carb recipes that could be really interesting for you to add to your daily routine, and all of that will also be linked below in the description for you. Another very important tip for you is to control the amount of food you eat. Of course, you don't necessarily need to buy a scale and weigh everything. That's not the idea, but it's very important that we have at least some control over how much we're eating. Just keep a mental count going in your head, like, okay, I'm putting in 2 spoonfuls of this brown rice right now, and then I'm adding about 4 spoonfuls of beans. So you have a rough idea of how much you're adding. Because it's very easy for us to lose track of how much we're actually eating, especially when we're busy or distracted. A diabetic who is out of balance often feels very hungry because their blood sugar levels are high, but the sugar isn't able to enter the cells properly, so the body thinks it needs more fuel. Even though there's a lot of glucose in the blood, your body is hungry because the cell can't get its food, which is sugar. So it keeps sending that hunger signal all the time. So yes, an unbalanced diabetic does feel hungrier. That's normal. The person isn't making it up when they say they're hungry. I don't like hearing otherwise, because this is truly physiological. The person gets hungrier, sometimes becomes moody, gets irritated, because that's how people get when they're hungry. So in this case, it's much easier for us to lose control and end up overeating. It's very important that you already know how much you should consume so that your blood sugar doesn't get too high. You can start by testing this, and your local nutritionist will always help you with this, better calculating your diet and organizing it for you. But you can already start, even before your appointment, by keeping a diary and taking notes. On this day, I ate 3 tablespoons of this, 2 of that, and my blood sugar was like this. And then you measure it after your meal to see how your diet is affecting you. This is a really great tip. Another good tip is to be very careful with food labels, because when we consume processed products, sometimes the term diet appears, and it gives the impression that you can eat more of it, but the amount of carbohydrates can be high. This is the case with diet chocolates. They don't have sugar, but the amount of carbohydrates is practically the same as regular chocolate. So, it's really important that you know how to read a food label well. I even have a video here on the channel about how not to be fooled by food labels, and I'll leave it down below for you. I know that this issue of portion control can sometimes be a bit complicated. I have some really good videos here talking about binge eating, which can also happen to people. I'll leave them down below to help you, including one specifically about sugar cravings, because I know it's really annoying when someone tells you that you can't eat something. It just makes you want it even more. It's awful. It's like when you have to do a blood test, they tell you to fast for 12 hours, you end up feeling hungrier. So I'll leave these videos here to help you, along with some sugar-free dessert recipes as well, to support you down below. Besides that, as a lifestyle habit, it's important for me to remind you that staying well hydrated will always help keep your blood glucose lower. Because when we urinate more, the excess glucose usually leaves through the urine, through our kidneys. They can filter some of it out. It's not ideal, but it helps with this compensation mechanism, so staying well hydrated is important. It's always important for you to try to add some kind of physical activity, because this will improve the sensitivity of the target cells. It will help because muscle cells during physical exercise are able to absorb glucose more easily, better stabilizing blood glucose and sugar levels. Also, it's important to get good sleep because poor sleep makes us more stressed, and stress raises glucose. So try to maintain a calmer lifestyle. I'll leave some tips below on how to drink more water throughout the day and how to make any physical activity more enjoyable. Tips for you to try to incorporate this into your daily routine, lifestyle tips, and also a playlist about sleep and anxiety, which can help you as well. It's also important for us to always maintain a wide variety in our diet, because there are some micronutrients that can actually help improve insulin resistance, reduce this resistance, even enhance insulin secretion, and keep glucose levels more stable. The 2 micronutrients that have the most studies supporting this are chromium and magnesium. I already have a video here on the channel talking about chromium picolinate. It's really good. I'll leave that video down below for you. And there are several videos about magnesium, the different types of magnesium and everything else, which you can watch to learn more about this. But let's quickly go over what the main sources are, just so you know for your daily life. And magnesium can be found in beans, in dark chocolate, in some nuts, and in dark leafy greens. So if you want to know more, watch the videos where I give more details, including talking about supplementation, if that's something you need. So, if your blood sugar is already elevated and you want tips on how to lower it right now, let's start by quickly talking about medication, since people with diabetes usually take some kind of medication. It could be oral medication or insulin, which is that subcutaneous injection of the hormone, often because the body isn't producing enough or is producing it but isn't able to use it effectively. In the case of oral medication, it's very important to tell you that you need to be consistent with taking it. You should take it at the same time every day. And it's not a good idea to increase the dose just because your blood sugar is high. If your blood sugar is always high, even when you're following the right diet, you need to talk to your doctor because they may need to recalculate and decide how much to increase your medication. Never increase or stop any medication on your own. Regarding insulin, it requires a different kind of management because for people with type 1 diabetes especially, if they count carbohydrates, they'll know better how much fast-acting insulin to take. Usually, the doctor will prescribe a fixed dose of long-acting or ultra-long-acting insulin and will leave the ultra-fast-acting insulin for you to adjust according to your daily carbohydrate count. In your case, if you use ultra-fast-acting insulin, you might increase the dose if that's the plan you've worked out with your doctor or your nutritionist. But once again, if that's not the case, if you've been given a fixed insulin regimen and you're still not able to control your blood glucose with the prescribed insulin, even though your diet is already correct, then your doctor may need to adjust this for you. So it's always important for you to visit your doctor regularly and check if your medication dosage is up to date for your weight and your diet. Sometimes you might have an infection or some other issue that can cause your glucose to rise. So always remember that it's important to follow the regimen that was prescribed for you and never increase it on your own if that hasn't been agreed upon. Helping to lower glucose is also related to hydration because once again, as I mentioned, when we drink water, we're able to urinate more and eliminate some of that glucose through urine. It's not going to be miraculous. If your glucose is at 250, drinking water won't solve it. That's not it, but staying hydrated and urinating frequently can also help you keep your levels lower. Of course, physical exercise can be an option for you as long as your blood sugar isn't higher than 250 milligrams per deciliter. Because if that happens, especially if you have type 1 diabetes, you could be at risk of diabetic ketoacidosis, and that's dangerous for you. If your blood sugar is slightly elevated, you can go for a walk, but if it's very high, it's best not to exercise. Always remember to talk to your doctor about this because it might seem counterintuitive, but it can acidify your blood pH, and that can be dangerous for you. Another important point to mention is that the exercises should be lighter and, above all, aerobic, because if your blood sugar is already elevated and you do weight training, the stress can actually cause your blood sugar to rise even more at first. Always remember to also consult your physical education professional to guide you regarding this. Just to make it clear for you, regular physical exercise always helps control blood sugar, and low-intensity aerobic exercise, when blood glucose is slightly elevated, will help lower it. The problem is if your blood glucose is already very high, above 250, above 300. The recommendation is you should not do physical exercise. Also, you shouldn't do strength training if your glucose is already elevated, like weightlifting, because this, at first, can increase your blood sugar, and if it is already high, that's not what you want. So just to make it very clear, physical exercise is very beneficial for keeping blood glucose low, but only as long as you have proper supervision, as always. Now, regarding tea, there are many people who say they drink cinnamon tea, hibiscus tea, chamomile tea, green tea, and notice that their blood sugar goes down. These teas help a lot in keeping blood sugar lower as a complementary measure throughout your day, complementing well-organized physical activity, well-managed medication, and a well-structured diet. But there are no scientific studies that say if you drink a cup of cinnamon tea, for example, your blood sugar will drop from 250 to 200. There is no scientific consensus on how much to take or how long it will take to lower your blood sugar. We know that they help in a synergistic way to control your blood sugar, but they are not medication. So always remember to use good judgment regarding this and not to rely on it to keep your blood sugar low, because for some people they work very well and for others they do not. So take this opportunity to tell me down below if you have ever used any of these types of teas to lower your blood sugar and what your results were. Of course, there are studies that make a correlation between consuming these teas before or during a meal and the reduction of postprandial glucose, precisely because they often help with insulin secretion and the sensitization of target cells. But there aren't that many scientific studies that talk about consuming them when your blood sugar is already elevated. That's a point I wanted to make clear to you here. If you're looking for a more natural approach to help you complementarily keep your blood sugar more controlled, I have a video here on the channel with the best teas for diabetes and another video with the best plants for you to add to your daily routine. Many of them are easy to find and you probably already have some at home. I'll leave them down below in the description for you. So tell me down below what you usually do to lower your blood sugar if you have high blood sugar. I'd love to see your comment. Give the video a like, it really helps me out, and share it with anyone who needs it. Let's work together to spread this chain of good because that's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.